Let's talk about a thinking topic. This is a this is a thinking topic. Okay, we did 19 last episode. We did 1985, right? It's based on the George Orwell classic about how the authorities in your civilization will tell you what is acceptable thought and unacceptable thought. They control the dialect. They control the words. They make certain words negative, like um, taxing the rich is considered a very negative word in uh, 1984. But in the future, um, in the dystopian future of Orwell, there was this was all restricted. You were basically the rich and powerful told you what to do. But there's another concept I read about between episodes. It's called the Leviathan. And it was a book by Thomas Hobbes. And it was from the 1600s. And there's something about history. You want to learn something else about history? If you watch this show, I always teach you something that you're not going to learn about on pretty much anywhere else. Okay. I have to dig to find some of this stuff. It is on most of the stuff's on YouTube. I learn everything off YouTube. But the Leviathan was a concept that once you understand what it is, and I'm showing you my Leviathan train setup here. These tracks look like the Leviathan to me. But the idea of the Leviathan is that you need the enforcement of laws and the enforcement of thought police in order to have civilization, in order for a nation to exist. Thomas Hobbes understood that everyone is selfish. Okay. This is why I think a lot of people don't understand why you must be ruthless and tax the rich, because they don't understand the rich are lying when they say trickle down economics is good. That is completely false. We've debunked that in many, many ways in this show. Why that's a falsehood and why that makes anyone who makes less than $250,000 a year poor. Okay. You should always be pro taxing the rich and always be fine with them leaving. Just be aware that that taxation has to go to a pool to replace the industries if they are stupid enough to leave. And as I've always mentioned too, with taxation comes the rights to do business in a territory. And if you do not pay your taxes, you do not have the rights to sell product to those people. End of discussion. So the topic of the Leviathan is basically the idea of law enforcement and religious indoctrination. Nowadays, I think that comes religion's been replaced with universities, places of higher education, political correctness, social acceptability, stuff like that. But these are all part of one of the same thing. Without it, you can't have a nation. I think furthermore, it should actually include taxation. Taxation should be part of the Leviathan. Um, One thing that's quite fascinating about this Thomas Hobbes book is that he wrote it in 1642, or around 1642. And I didn't know this, but England had a civil war and 300,000 people died in England. You got to realize England wouldn't have been that big of a place then. That's a good percent of its population, where it exposed the fact that everyone is selfish and entitled, and going to war is a very natural thing for large groups of people in if the Leviathan is not present. Now, in modern society, we see this happening in politics. We see people on the left and right claiming that they deserve, better this or that. They shouldn't have to pay their taxes. But that's why the Leviathan is essential. That if it comes down to it, you got to expropriate property from the rich. And we need institutes to do that, lest civilization not exist. And that's the thing that I learned about this Thomas Hobbes guy and the Leviathan, is this concept that You need it's basically an entity so powerful that it's so much more powerful than any individual. The top billionaire can be thrown in prison by the Leviathan without question. Like it's there's got to be rules to it though. Like obviously it's a legal system. It's a system of laws that create it, right? Like formal laws and social laws and behavior. But the way the world's working right now, the rich and the powerful are manipulating the Leviathan. And when that happens, you'll get things like the English Civil War, where, 300,000 people die. If that happens today, it'll be in the millions. And we don't want that to happen. So let's start fairly taxing the rich. Let's start creating UBI, and we'll create the Leviathan to enforce it all. And I think we're all good for the future.